So Oregon State and Washington State are going to play each other twice in 2025. And I think it's a good idea. I think it's a cool idea. Because if you think about it from the 1,000-foot view, the Oregon State and Washington State are essentially playing independent schedules in 2025. They don't have the Mountain West deal that they had in 2024, where they fill out their schedule with Mountain West teams. And it's also a year before the newly reinvigorated Pac-12 comes back to life, the zombie version with Boise State, San Diego State, Fresno State, Colorado State, Oregon State, and Washington State. Doesn't start until 2026. So they had to figure something out for 2025. And I think I will die on this hill. I would rather play somebody, as a fan of my favorite college football program, I would rather them play somebody for a second time than somebody who does absolutely nothing to move the needle, whether that's an FCS school, whether that's a low-level group of five school. If you're an Oregon State fan or a Washington State fan, would you rather see somebody that you are now, for better or worse, linked with for the annals of college football history? From here on out, Washington State and Oregon State, the little engine that could, they are tied together. Would you rather see that school come to you, or would you rather pick up an FCS school? It's a really easy decision for me. And also, nothing cements a rivalry more than the frequency in which you play it. Pretty much every other sport, you play at least twice outside of college football. So why not? Why not do it? And the dates that they are playing are November 1st and November 29th. It's a home and home, by the way. It feels natural, but to point it out there. November 1st and November 29th. You know what's the most difficult dates to fill on a schedule? Are those November dates that, outside of the SEC and ACC, where they're kind of interlinked and playing each other, nobody's really open those weeks. Nobody's really looking for a non-conference game in November. Outside of Notre Dame getting to play, USC or Stanford, it just doesn't really exist all that frequently. And so your options are pretty limited. And for both schools now, you're getting somebody who probably moves the needle a little bit more than the alternative, right? Like if Washington State were to bring in Sacramento State, just out of, you going to sell the joint out? Maybe it's even probably. Your fans get excited about that? Probably not. If you're Oregon State and you had to go on the road somewhere else, or you had to bring in an FC, your options are travel to Washington State, and then they're going to come back here in a couple of weeks. That sounds like kind of a best case scenario to me. And so I think the initial thought process is like, oh, well, that's lazy. Nah, it makes a lot of sense. It sure beats the travel budget from Washington State to Oregon State is sure better than Washington State to damn near anybody anywhere else. And Oregon State to Washington State, that travel budget is a lot better. So you get to save a little bit of money. Your fans, now it's not the world's easiest drive from Corvallis to the Palouse, but it sure beats the alternative. It's somebody that you're intricately familiar with, and for better or worse, it's two teams, two universities, two athletic departments, two fan bases that are hanging on to the same life raft that nobody understands what you're going through quite like the other team, the other fan base, the other athletic department, the other university. They get it. They're going through the exact same thing that you are. And so if you can get a built-in 1 year home and home, I think it's nothing but a good thing. Like, it makes the last game of the season a lot more interesting because let's say 2025 doesn't go well for Oregon State or doesn't go well for Washington State. Do you want to go to the game on November 29th if your team is 3-8? Probably not. Do you want to go if your team is worse than that? No. But if we're playing Oregon State, we're playing somebody we're familiar with, somebody that I know moves the needle, and somebody that barely beat us just earlier this month. Or we played a really tight game, or maybe somebody had a cheap shot and there was a targeting foul and they got ejected, and you got to worry about what that retaliation looks like. All of those things can drive the needle, move the needle. All those things can drive attendance, can drive attention to your program. So I like it. I think it's a good thing for both universities, especially when you're in a situation of like, we have to find games and we can't play 12 straight weeks starting from like week 0 to early November and then just have 3 weeks off. You get lost, you don't matter. All of the possible bad things that could happen do happen. So you got to fill your schedule in November. And so if you got to play each other, I think that's making chicken salad out of chicken you-know-what and dealing with the cards you've been dealt. Because I think the conventional wisdom is if somebody were to say, like, hey, do you want to play again? The conventional wisdom is like, hell no, we don't want to play again. We're going to play the same team twice in a month? And when the answer is, why not? Why not? That'll do it for today's episode of the Daily Huddle. Appreciate you making us a part of your day, however it is, wherever it is you're doing so. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. Make sure you're getting all the great college football content that we are pumping out. If you're listening to the podcast feed, drop a 5-star review. It goes a long way in helping out the channel. I will see you tomorrow for another episode of the Daily Huddle.